Buongiorno everyone, welcome to sunny Durham. Get a load of that in you, eh? By the river. Cheeky paint in the background there, little couple of days away. Not too far from home, relaxing, kind of. During the international break. And there is a few newsy bits, important bits, to talk about in this video. So please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and drop a like on this one and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As Newcastle United have appointed, apparently, hasn't been officially confirmed yet by Newcastle United Football Club, but it's all over the media outlets that we will be appointing Ross Wilson as our new sporting director. That's going to happen at the end of this month. It's at advanced stages now. Advanced talks are happening between Newcastle and Nottingham Forest for I think he's a chief football officer or something over there at Forest, because he had been sporting director previously. They kind of did have two, but now they've got Edu from Arsenal, which led to Nuno Espirito Santo being sacked and Postecoglou being appointed. And Wilson kind of moved into that more, CEO role where he was overseeing things a bit more. But now Newcastle have approached him. Eddie Howe has made him the man that he wants to replace Paul Mitchell. And that's the key thing here. It's kind of down to Eddie Howe now. Mitchell came in against Eddie Howe's wishes, really. He was never Eddie Howe's man. He didn't know anything about Mitchell's appointment, and we're seeing how that played out absolutely terribly. What a disaster that was. So it can't be any worse, can it? Wilson can't be any worse than Mitchell. Surely not. Really, no, can't be. I mean, what a nightmare that was, the whole thing. Not getting Isaac down to a new deal. I know it's worked out all right now. We don't care anymore, Baltimore us here. But not getting Isaac down, not getting other players down to new deals, which is Wilson's prerogative when he does come in. We'll discuss that in a minute. But in terms of the way things played out, obviously no real signings under Mitchell. I think the only decent thing he did was sell Lloyd Kelly for 20 odd million, to be honest. He got rid of Almiron off the books as well, but there was now too special happening there with Mitchell in terms of incomings at least, and mainly outgoings as well. It was just a shambles of an appointment, a mismatch, one that completely went over the bar. It was an absolute miss, wasn't it, between Eddie Howe, the chemistry, the club. It just wasn't the fit, and Mitchell has moved on. So we don't need to talk about him, we don't need to talk about the past, we talk about the present and the future will be the appointment of Ross Wilson, and he will be in charge of getting some new contracts for our star players. So we're talking Sandro Tonali, Tino Livramento, and a couple of others that need to be rewarded with new deals. So that's his priority, and good. That's what we've been talking about in the video a few days ago that I did say, Newcastle must learn from their lessons of letting, Isaac not get a new deal. Yes, he had 3 years left, and yes, Tonali has a few years left until 2028, but it's not necessary, and I've seen the comments the other day from the video I did, it's not necessarily the length of contract. Obviously it helps if it's longer, and it helps if it's another 4 or 5 years on top of that, but it's mainly the wages that the player feels he deserves, that it's competitive, that he could get elsewhere. Obviously Newcastle can't pay the wages that Liverpool, Chelsea, Man City, Man United can offer, but what we can do is try and get a lot closer to that. Say if Sandro at the minute's on 80 grand a week, then offer him 200, whereas if someone wanted to sign him, say if it was Man City, the same with Tino Livramento, they would offer him probably 250, 300 quite comfortably. Newcastle can get a lot closer, and the player feels that he doesn't have to really push for a move or want to move if he's getting way closer to that valuation of £200,000 to £300,000 a week, which if Newcastle want to keep elite players, they have to pay these big wages for the big stars, or the bigger clubs will come in and take advantage of that and sign them. But what Newcastle also need to do is get these players down on new deals like Tonali, and if Real Madrid come next summer, Barcelona, whoever, very strong possibility that'll happen with the attention he's getting now and with all the publicity, then you need to make sure that you are paying them the wages, get them on a longer term contract, and then getting a release clause in there so you can demand a bigger fee. Because if Newcastle and Paul Mitchell, try to mumble the two words together there, if he had have sorted out a new deal for Alexander Isak a year, 18 months ago, and you had a 150 million release clause in there, you would have got that from Liverpool this summer. You would have got that because Isak might have had 5 years left instead of 3. You would have had the release clause in there. You can demand a bigger fee. You can demand a bigger fee is the point there. It's not just getting him to sign a new deal so he's going to stay at Newcastle forever. He's not. No one is. But, you know, it puts you in a position of strength. It puts you with more of a power play, which Newcastle haven't had for a long time, and a lot of sales and signings, to be fair. Look at Wissa in terms of a signing over the top for that, even Voltemada, which hopefully not, it doesn't look like it now, but at time 69 million, he's only had one good season in Germany. We're now what we're doing. But obviously Johan Wissa is a better example, I think. 55 million, 29-year-old. I don't mind it, I don't care, I didn't pay it, but he's Premier League proven, so there's a part of that with his injury. It doesn't look too great. But when he's back and he's hopefully firing and scoring goals and links up with Nick Voltemada, then it won't feel like we've been outpriced and, you know, we've spent an absolute fortune on him. But the point being is that when you are buying these players like that and selling these players like Elliot Anderson, where we didn't have the time or the ability to put in a buyback clause, that has massively hampered us. Not having a buyback clause on Anderson, on Yankuba Minter even, looks like a great player of brain. He'll score next week, goals he always does against us. And that's scuppered us massively. Because not having a buyback for them is an absolute disgrace, man. Especially Elliot Anderson, who apparently Man United are making their number one target next summer. Rumours that's what Jim Ratcliffe was saying in an interview yesterday. We'll show you that background there. Lovely. Shout out to the Durham Mags and Durham itself. Beautiful little place, 30-40 minutes away from me in Newcastle. Love it round here. I love Durham. Nice walks everywhere. Nice little quirky bars and cafes and that. So yeah, nice little night or two away during the international break. And speaking of the international break, right, we've got Dan Burn having freak injuries. Dan Burn said the day he didn't even realise he broke his hand. That's how hard he is. Solid as nails. Yeah, didn't even realise he broke his hand in the game against Forest last week. You can tell I've been up Annie with a Ben, maybe in the hotel crying still. So Dan Burn said he broke his hand, didn't even know it, but he would have been fit to play the game last night where England cruised to a 3-0 win over Bellamy. His Wales side. Should have been more. It's 3-0 after about 18 minutes. But Burn said he could have played last night. He said he'd be fit to play against Latvia on Tuesday, and he will be fit for Newcastle next week, which is the most important thing. Who cares about your bloody international breaks? We're asked about Newcastle, so he'll be fit for the game next week against Brighton away. Dan Burn against his former side, but he broke his hand there. So that's a bit of a freak injury. Louis Miley has also picked up an injury. He's got a calf injury. It's not meant to be too serious. He's unlikely to miss any action for Newcastle if called upon next week or the next couple of weeks. That's good news. He was pulled out of the under-21 side for England, but it's not an issue. It's not a worry there for the Mags, for Eddie Howe, which is good because obviously the other day as well we're complaining about Bruno and Big Joe flying 30 hours for bloody friendlies in Seoul, South Korea, and then Japan after that in Tokyo. But Bruno actually got an assist last night for that young Chelsea winger, Estevao, who scored against Liverpool last weekend. So Bruno got an assist for Brazil. He's still putting assists in, still getting appearances all the way over there after bloody flight emergencies and everything. So he's still assisting, he's still playing for his national side. Joe Linton was an unused substitute. Maybe he'll play in the game in Tokyo, and then them two Brazilians fly back 6,000 miles 2 days before flying a few hundred miles or a coach or whatever to Brighton Hove Albion next weekend, which I'm looking forward to. You know, it's good to try and switch off, have a little break now and again with the international thing, but I'm still doing videos, giving you the update. So do subscribe to the channel and give it a like if you haven't already. Was there anything else to talk about? I think we've covered the basis there. Like I say, you know, Ross Wilson is going to be appointed by the end of the month apparently. He's coming in from Forest. He's going to be our new sporting director, which we haven't had one since May, June, when Mitchell left. Eddie Howe's nephew Andy was acting as the kind of de facto sporting director in that period, being involved in discussions, him and Jamie Rubin leading those transfer discussions in the summer window just gone there. So January, big month for us. Wilson will be involved, but again, final word now will be down to Eddie Howe and his team, really, which as it should be. He's done a great job here. He deserves to have that say on who he wants to bring in and coach, and this will keep working wonders. Like I say, people doubted Voltemada, people said he's overpriced, people said he's young, he's only had one good season at Stuttgart. Some of that's true, but at the minute, a few goals, making it look easy, and he hasn't even settled into life properly yet and hasn't had enough time on the coaching side of things on the training pitch. So yeah, our talent ID has been pretty spot on in the last few years post takeover. So I've got full confidence and faith in us to continue that good run. So let us know how you're doing, everyone. Enjoy your international break, enjoy your weekend. Shout out to the people I've been talking to here in Durham, the Newcastle fans and stuff. And then I'll see you very, very soon. If there's any more news, then obviously next week we'll be back for the Brighton game. After that, it's thick and fast. There's loads of matches, midweek games, Benfica, Spurs in the Carabao after that. Loads going on. Hit like, smash subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.